Overture, curtain lights, this is it, the night of nights. No more rehearsing and nursing a part. We know every part by heart. Overture, curtain lights, this is it. We'll hit the heights, and oh, what heights we'll hit. On with the show, this is it.
Hello and welcome to On With The Show here at the Current Cast, the Bakersfield Music Hall of Fame. My name is Goose. I'm your host, and what we are going to be talking about are movies, television, and local community theater. And I'm going to give you my perspective on some of the things I've seen and give you some ideas of what you can see for the weekend. So getting right started, let's start out with the movie that opened yesterday to big fanfare. The trailer came out well last year, and that's Ready Player One. Now, Ready Player One is based off the book by Ernest Cline. It's being directed by Steven Spielberg, and it is set in 2045 in Columbus, Ohio. Interesting place to have a film. And it's a dystopian story where there's nothing really to do except play this video game. You go in, you put on these virtual reality goggles, and you go into what's called the Oasis as an avatar. And it's basically any place where you can go in there, like any kind of game you play, like shoot 'em ups. You can race cars. You can basically meet other people as their avatar. And it's an interesting idea for a film. Most of the film is done in computer-generated animation, and I think the only person who could probably pull this off is Spielberg himself. And this is a great film to watch. This film, from beginning to end, did not slow down. And what I mean was, there wasn't any point where the film felt like it was slow. The story moved well, it flowed well, and there were some great scenes of all kinds of pop culture. I saw things of pop culture that I would not have thought of would be in the same film. I saw RoboCop. I saw the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I saw the Power Rangers. Iron Giant makes a huge contribution. I even saw Hello Kitty in this film. It was absolutely amazing to see the roundabout of pop culture that was in this film. As a matter of fact, there's even an Easter egg in there of Mayor Goldie Wilson. Now, if you know who Mayor Goldie Wilson is, that's pop culture. That's an Easter egg. And the interesting part about it is that I was able to kind of just quickly scan and be able to see these different things really quickly. I know that my kids were with me watching it. They missed some stuff. There were things that they missed, and it's a great thrill ride. Again, this movie does not end. And so as you just move on through the picture or the film, you begin to see some of the things that happen. This is basically, it's one of those things where it just really goes. It just really goes. I'm really excited about it. I give this a solid A. If you are looking for a movie to see this weekend at the theater, go see Ready Player One. It is a great film. It's a great thrill ride. What I also want to do is I want to post a question for you today. And that is, if you were to go into the Oasis, what character of pop culture would you go as? Would you make your own up? Or would you go in as, one of your favorite video game or movie characters? Now, me personally, I would pick the Joker. I think that would be an interesting, I think the Joker is one of these great guys that just, you could play as, and he has all these different gadgets, and he's just maniacal enough to really screw with people in the gaming world. I'd go as Doc Ock. I would love to have those 4 extra arms and just knock people around. I asked this question of some people, and I had some interesting answers. One person said they would go as Sora from Kingdom Hearts. Another person said they'd go as Kratos from God of War. One person said that he had an avatar from Grand Theft Auto 5, and he would go as his avatar from Grand Theft Auto 5. Interesting enough, I even had one person who said they would go as Twilight Sparkle from My Little Pony. These are some interesting picks. So do me a favor, tell me which one would be, tell me which character of pop culture you would like to be, and comment below, and I'll look it over the weekend, and I would love to see what it is you would like to be in the gaming world. Moving right along, The Last Jedi just was released in Blu-ray and DVD this week on Tuesday. And this was a film that was basically either you really, really liked it or you really, really didn't. And I was kind of somewhere in the middle. I gave the movie a B. I thought it was entertaining. I thought there were some really great moments of tension, especially between Kylo Ren and Rey. The problem I had with The Last Jedi was, for me, it ran too long. And there were times where it really lagged. And it especially did that between the relationship between Rose and Finn. And I find this interesting because in Star Wars lore, you always have the main three. And in the first three films, you had Luke, Leia, and Han. In the second three films, you had Obi-Wan, Padme, and you had Anakin. Here you have Poe, you have Finn, and you have Rey. But in this film, you basically had split the three of them up in different directions. And you had Poe dealing with the council and trying to get things done, militarily, and you had Rey over here dealing with Kylo Ren, and then you had Finn on this little adventure with Rose. And I don't know if they're setting this relationship up for another film. To me, it kind of feels like it lags a little bit. I couldn't understand why it was there, and I couldn't understand. It just didn't seem like there was a purpose to it, and it seemed like that they tried to mix in some action sequences to kind of kick in, and give reason for that. But it just didn't make sense to me. I would personally have cut 20 minutes out of it. And but again, I'm looking forward to seeing what the next film does with this, and hopefully it doesn't make everything convoluted with this storyline. Again, I gave it a B. It is a good film and entertaining enough to watch. But is it the best Star Wars film ever? No. Is it the worst Star Wars film ever? No. It's just one of those films in the middle. All right, moving right along. At your local Redbox is Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. Now, this was a movie. When I saw the trailers at first, I rolled my eyes and I went, oh my gosh, what are they doing? I didn't understand what this, why they had brought about this film, and I was expecting it to kind of suck. Just to be honest, I think any film where it's like a reboot, especially an unnecessary reboot, that you're just kind of worried that they're going to take your film and they're going to destroy it. I was happy enough to admit that I was wrong. Jumanji basically centers around these four main characters, and they start out as teenagers. And now this is kind of like something out of the Breakfast Club. You have four teenagers, and they're all different. All right? It's basically like, you have the jock, you have the nerd, you have the loner, and you have the princess. And they all get stuck in detention. Again, a lot like Breakfast Club. Except the twist goes to they find this video game console and they start to play it and they get sucked into the game. Now, what makes this really good, what makes this movie really good is the acting, because when they end up in the game, each of these teenagers become a character that they would not necessarily be in real life. In other words, the scary nerd became the big, strong, the hero, while the jock became the small, diminutive helper. And it became an interesting little dynamic between the four of them. They actually had to get through the game, and they had to survive the game, and which was what it was all about. And in the meantime, while they became these new characters, they found out new things about themselves. And they basically became out as new people. That's basically what you want in a journey like this. And it was hysterically funny. I mean, you have two guys, in Kevin Hart and Jack Black, that you can't go wrong with two guys, either one of these guys. And even Dwayne Johnson was very funny in his role, because he played the nerd who had to become the hero. Karen Gillan plays the loner, who is basically the kick butt female of the group. But Jack Black and Kevin Hart, those two guys really made this film hysterical, especially when Jack Black has to play a teenage princess. in this 40-something man's old body. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of details, but I would just say that you just have to sit down and watch it, because there are certain things in that a female in a man's body that they did some things that were absolutely priceless as far as comedy gold. The other thing I liked about Jumanji, two things. One is I liked how they incorporated, again, gaming culture into the film. In other words, if you were to be sucked into a video game, there are certain dynamics, because you're going to be coming across characters where they're going to repeat the same line. If any of you guys who have played a game and you go to talk to a character, ta-da, guess what? They're going to spout out the same lines over and over again until you just move on to something else. And I also liked there was a part in there where it paid tribute to from the first Jumanji. I thought that was highly appropriate. I thought it was very, very poignant, and it really touched me that they were able to put that in. Jumanji is a very good film for you to pick up at the Red Box. Take it home, watch it this weekend. It is hysterically funny. I see we need to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some things on Netflix that I suggest you watch this weekend, and a couple of TV shows that debuted this week, where one was, I think, really, really good, and one I think needs a little bit of work. We will be right back after this break.
I choose Patriot Bail Bonds.
We choose Patriot Bail Bonds.
We choose Patriot Bail Bonds.
If the best criminal attorneys choose Patriot Bail Bonds, who would you choose?
Patriot Bail Bonds. We fight for your freedom.
Your home is perfect. Until it's not. We understand that life has its changes. As your family grows, we're here to help grow with you. Because taking care of your family is important to you and important to us. Your story starts here with Cornerstone Mortgage.
What's up, everybody? Chapman here at Kerncast. Join me every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Pacific time here on Danger Zone.
At the time you were arrested, you were served with a DS-367 temporary driver's license. It's good for 30 days, but if you don't act within 10 days, at the end of those 30 days, your license will be suspended. It's important for your lawyer to contact the DMV for you. Set up a driver's license administrative hearing so that your license is not going to suspension. That's something here at Braemar Law we do for you.
All right, and we're back to On With The Show. I'm your host, Goose Scott. We are here at Current Cast at the beautiful Bakersfield Hall of Fame. And there are some things on Netflix that I found that really got me excited. And one of the things I like about Netflix and Hulu is that you can find classic films on their sites to stream and watch. And one of those great classic films that I put off my bucket list, because to tell you the truth, I had not been able to see this film all the way through, completely. I would always catch bits and pieces of it, and I never would see the whole thing. And that movie is The Godfather. I know that kind of shocks you, but Netflix has the Godfather trilogy on their site, and I would highly recommend you go and stream that and watch that. Now, here's the thing, though. The thing about it is that it is 3 hours long, so you're going to have to, if you're going to sit down and watch the whole thing, you're going to have to donate a chunk of time to watch it, which is not a bad thing. And there is some nudity and violence in it, so you're going to want it. I would recommend like 15 and up, in my opinion. But when I finally saw it, I finally sat down and I was just amazed at what Francis Ford Coppola put together in this film. It seemed like from beginning to end, I was so, and I know this sounds crazy, but I was so moved by the film. The characters and just developed grandly. You could see certain things happening in the film. You know that Sonny was eventually going to get killed in some way, and I hope I'm not breaking it, giving any spoilers out. I probably am. But with an all-star cast like Marlon Brando and James Caan and Robert Duvall and Al Pacino, and then you put in there Talia Shire and Diane Keaton, you have a cast that just cannot go wrong in this film. It was so well done, and I'm looking forward to seeing the other two. As far as I remember, I believe that both Godfather and Godfather Part 2 both won the Academy Award for Best Picture, and I can tell you that's pretty. That doesn't happen. You don't see, especially these days with sequels. You don't see a sequel winning Best Picture. I think the closest that came to it was Toy Story 3, which, again, I will tell you, is another great film, and just deservedly so. Should have been nominated for an Oscar, but they just don't make sequels well. They just don't. My idea of a sequel is that it should either do one of two things. It should either move along the story from the first movie that you see, or it should be completely new, but just up to par with the first one. I think the best example of that is also like Terminator 2. A lot of people say Terminator 2 is quite possibly the better of the best of that series and that franchise, and I can't disagree. It's a great film. But the Godfather trilogy is on Netflix. I highly recommend you go see it. I'm going to go see The Godfather Part 2 hopefully this weekend. Make some time out to get it off that movie off my bucket list as well. There's also another series that you should see. It's a docu-series called The Toys That Made Us. Now, it's an interesting docu-series. There are only 4 episodes in it, and it basically, each 55-minute episode deals with a toy that we grew up playing with. And you start off with the Star Wars toys, and you go to Barbie, then you go to the He-Man, and then G.I. Joe. And it's interesting to see where they originated from and how they developed. You talk to the actual toy designers, except for the one for Barbie, because both of them had passed on. But you get a chance to basically talk to the people who designed the toys, who sold the toys, and see how much of an impact that they've made in our lives. I mean, think about it. I mean, how many? You go to any convention, especially one of those Comic-Con conventions, and you'll see toys of characters, especially movie characters in pop culture, and they'll be sitting there for sale. And people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on toys. Not necessarily to even play with them, but just to have them and put them up on their walls. Which I find crazy, because I think if you're going to have a toy, you should play with it. But I think watching how the origin of these toys came about and see how we, how they became iconic in our lives is a very good show to see. I'm hoping they do more episodes. I'd like to see episodes of the Transformers, the Cabbage Patch Kids. I'm sure there's a few other toys. As a matter of fact, if there's a toy in your childhood you'd like to see them do, leave it in the comments below. Let's see if maybe we can get them to make a second season, or it's more a docu-series more about toys. I think they're fascinating. There were 2 television shows that debuted this week that I had a chance to see. First one was Sci-Fi's Krypton. And basically, it's about Superman's lineage. That's the best way I could explain it. You are basically watching the adventures of, I guess it's Sa'el. He's the grandfather of Kal-El, Superman. And there's a lot of aspects to the show that are really good. It's very beautiful, very beautifully shot. It's very aesthetically pleasing. It is also set in a dystopian world, which I think is becoming the new Hollywood go-to. Is like anything dystopian you want to go to, because hey, we want to have this real dreary world that we think it may happen, because and who knows, people, it's all about certain politics and everything, which is interesting in this film, or in this series, because you could see certain things that are taken from other shows and other movies. You could see parts of Star Wars. You can see parts of Star Trek. You can see parts of Blade Runner. You can see there's even, I think, a loose reference or a loose thing to Batman in one aspect. There's an influence from Batman in this show, and it's basically set in dystopian, like I said, dystopian society, where it's being ruled by a maniacal ruler that doesn't talk, which is kind of irony. When they said it was The Voice, I kind of half expected, not only did I chuckle, I kind of half expected Blake Shelton and Adam Levine to spin their chairs around, because I thought it was just the worst kind of hokey name that you could come up with for this ruler that's supposedly this maniacal ruler that holds down everybody. And I'm beginning to think there's more to this whole thing than is being shown. The problem I have with Krypton is that although it was very aesthetically pleasing to watch, the story went almost... I didn't get enough from the story to want to watch another episode. You understand? In other words, they did so much character building on this, and they did so much background, exposition on this, that I didn't get an idea until more than halfway, not even until close to the end of the episode, what the series was about. And what it is about is that I believe his name is Adam Strange. Again, for a moment that I thought it was Doctor Strange, and I realized no, that's Dr. Stephen Strange. That's in DC. That's in Marvel. That's not in DC. So I have no idea who this guy is. But he traveled across the universe in time to say you must save your planet, because get this, one of the, and I'm not going to tell you who, but one of the Superman villains is coming to destroy Krypton before Superman is dead. Before Superman is born. Excuse me. Before Superman is born, and he's dead before he's even born. In other words, they'll lose the greatest superhero ever. And I sat there and went, oh my gosh, that's the Terminator. Another influence. So it didn't seem like there was anything over the show I'm probably going to give it a couple more episodes to see where it goes. But I would have thought that you have one of the greatest comic book heroes of all time, and you're going to do a background family history on his lineage, and you're not even going to take enough time to figure out, how you're going to put this together. It felt like that they went for style and not substance. And I think it's pretty sad. I'm going to give it a couple more episodes. If I change my opinion on it, I'll let you know in a couple of weeks what I think. But right now, I'm not very high on this show. I'm hoping that it gets better. There's always that chance, but we'll see. Another television show that debuted this week, and it's hard for me to call it a debut, more like a rebirth, is Roseanne. Now, the interesting thing about this is that, you have a show that hasn't been on the air in 20 years. And all of a sudden they decide they're going to bring the gang back together and they're going to do new episodes. And I was kind of like, oh my God, what are they doing? Because you just hope that they don't ruin what the legacy was back when they first did the show. I was pleasantly surprised. It was almost like they just stepped right back on the set, and they just boom started becoming these characters again. As a matter of fact, Lacey Garrison, who plays Becky, I mean, it's almost like that. It was almost like that character never grew up. She's still the whiny little brat. She's just now in her 40s. And it's still irritating for me to see her because she's like, she's so selfish. And I'm wondering, on one of these days I'd like to get her and ask her, did you purposely make this character so selfish? Because it seems like she's just all about herself. But the comedy is still spot on. It's just 20 years later, and there are new things to kind of talk about. I'm not going to go into a lot of details. If you haven't had a chance to see Roseanne, the new Roseanne, and again, I call it a rebirth. It's not it's not. What do you call it? Anyway, forget it. It's a rebirth. They basically, in fact, when you see it, it's not. They don't even like go season 1, episode 1. It's season 10, episode 1. The show ended 20 years ago, and now we're back where we were. It's a great show. If you haven't had a chance to see it, go to Hulu. It is on Hulu for you to watch and stream. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how the rest of this season pans out. It looks really, really promising. All right, before we close, I want to let you know I am a big supporter of local community theater. And if you have a show that you'd like to promote, you'd like for me to give a shout out to, leave a comment about your show in the section below. Let me know about your show. Let me know when it's about to go on, and I will be more than happy to give a shout out. Maybe I'll even have some of you come on my show and you promote your show for you. But opening. There's some shows this weekend I'd like for you to go out. There are some shows this weekend that I would recommend you go out and see. The San Luis Obispo Repertory Theater is doing 39 Steps. Gaslight Melodrama is doing the Stockdale Social Club. That ought to be interesting. Stars Theater Restaurant is doing I believe it's an annual event called I'll Drink to That. That's only Saturday. And I believe it's basically to help promote their actors that are performing on stage. And the Empty Space Theater is closing out. They have their last shows this weekend of Three Sisters. Go out and catch a live show. Go out and support our local community theater. It's always great to have. It's always great to have the arts in our community and to have people go out and support them. And I'm hoping that that later on later on I'll have more shows to be able to talk to you about. Also, next weekend, I was just the Bakersfield Music Hall of Fame. I'm stumbling over my words all of a sudden. The Bakersfield Music Hall of Fame is having their Boxcar Acoustic Talent Contest next week. If you want to enter, the entry fee is $55. I don't know. For what I have in front of me, I don't have anything that will basically says how much tickets are if you want to just come and watch. But again, come out and support some music at the Bakersfield Music Hall of Fame. My name is Goose Scott. I want to thank you for watching On With the Show, and here at the Bakersfield Music Hall of Fame and Crooncast, and go out and catch a show.